What's up, everybody? Ask Me Anything for Tuesday, January, no, it's Thursday, January 25th, 2024. Okay, cool. Now that we get that out of the way, I've got the questions from the Facebook group open. I took screenshots of all the ones from the Linchpin squad and the btwb app. I've got those on my laptop as well. Let's get going, because if I don't dilly-dally, I think I can get through, I think maybe all of these questions, which would be great. All right, so let's see. Starting from the top. This is from Mark K. I loved reading your programming ebook. Thank you. It made me really curious to know how needing to produce multiple variations on a theme workouts each day fits with this process. For example, do you get all the way to the end, then vary each day in isolation? Do you cross a fork in the road earlier, such as gross movement patterns? Does the wild card use a different process than the Leo? So much curiosity. All right, cool. So for anybody who doesn't know what he's talking about or is interested, wrote a free programming ebook. Just go to CrossFitLinchpin.com, click the tab marked ebook, and download it for free. And it goes through an entire 4-week block of programming, the thought process, start to finish. Hopefully people really enjoy it. So Mark, if I understand your question, I program the primary workout of the day, and I just focus on that for the entire 4-week block of training. Once I'm happy with that, then I'll go back and do each day in isolation. I'll do whatever Monday happened to be. I'll create the wild card, the scaled, the limited equipment option, which is the dumbbell workout, and the no equipment option. And then I'll go on to the next day and do that. And that's actually where I am right now in the programming cycle. I'm just about happy with an upcoming 4-week block of training. I'm going to just go over it again today and see if I need to do any additional polishing. And if I'm happy with it, then today I'm going to start that process of doing all the different various workout options from day one. And so you mentioned like the wild card. Not that this is always the case, but the wild card frequently falls somewhere between like the primary workout of the day, the prescribed workout, and scaled. And the wild card might be, it's always preserving the stimulus, but it could have a reduction in loading. It could have a reduction in potentially like skills, for example. So just off the top of my head is, let's say the regular workout of the day has handstand walking in it. There'll be listed a whole bunch of different modifications or substitutions in case you don't have the ability to handstand walk, that you can do wall walks, you're shuffling your hands around the box with your body in a pike or a plank position, shoulder taps, like whatever it happened to be. Like there are ways that you could just do that. The wildcard option might have overhead carries in place of handstand walking or something like that. So, and then this, then it goes on with the scaled and the dumbbell option, all that stuff. Okay. From Richard T. Hey coach, I'm a new member and excited to be here. We're excited to have you. I was curious your advice for someone coming from a traditional bodybuilding type workout background. Many of the CrossFit movements such as snatches and cleans, etc. are new to me, and I'm wondering what do you think is the best way to safely get up to speed on them? I've seen some recommend joining a local affiliate to get the movements down, but also know of some online resources such as the Very Not Random barbell program, for example. So I understand because I've been there. I think most of us didn't grow up doing cleans and snatches and things like that. In my time prior to CrossFit, it was all classic bodybuilding splits. Monday and Thursdays, chest and tri. Tuesday and Friday was back and bi. Wednesday and Saturday was legs and abs. Sprinkle in some cardio and hope that everything goes in a good direction. And then now enter CrossFit. I don't know, kipping pull-ups, nope. Ring dips, nope. Muscle-ups, nope. Cleans, snatches. I didn't even deadlift back in the day, or do squats. I did leg press. And so I had to learn everything. And so there weren't anywhere, this is back in 2005, as many online resources at all as there are right now. There's like no YouTube video selections, like no nothing. You were just hoping for the best in your garage. And that's what me and all my knucklehead friends did. And I don't recommend that's what you do, but I will say, now hindsight in 2020, we should have scaled the weight a lot more than we did and scaled the intensity a lot more than we did. But through a tremendous amount of trial and error, we just figured all that stuff out. Now, you could speed up that process and make it a lot more efficient and probably safe as well by whatever it is that you want to learn, it's on YouTube. And it's on YouTube in slow motion, in various angles. It's amazing. And it just depends on how much effort you want to put into it. If you don't want to put much effort into it at all, then you have to part with some money. You maybe go find a local gym and you want to pay a personal trainer for 1 hour of their time, and you go over 3 or 4 movements in that 1 hour, but that costs you some money. Don't want to shell out the money? Then you have to put forth a bit more effort. You could videotape yourself, use your phone, film yourself, various angles on whatever movement it is that you want to focus on that day, and then put that up on the screen in your laptop or whatnot. Call up that beautiful slow motion video of that movement that you found on YouTube and go frame by frame between you and that person to figure out where do you differ from this idealized movement pattern and start to correct that. And there's countless articles and resources and all that stuff as well. So it just depends upon which route you want to go. People have had success with both routes. And then there are obviously, if you go to variednotrandom.com, we've got a dumbbell on-ramp program, a barbell on-ramp program, a bodyweight on-ramp program, and just stuff like that. So it just depends upon, and that can be, uploaded to your btwb calendar, and there's a daily session. So it just depends upon the level of time, effort you're willing to put into it, and whether you want to shell some money out of your pocket or not shell some money out of your pocket. In both ways you can do. But until you start to get those movements down, don't feel any pressure in the daily workout to load up the barbell unnecessarily or go faster than you should. Don't move faster than you can move well. And when you're learning these movements, which are unfamiliar, scale down the loading, slow down the pace, and you'll be good to go. I'm munching on a cough drop, my apologies. Brian T. How often on average do you do the full Linchpin daily session? Warm up, workout, accessory piece, cool down. I don't worry at all about getting in the accessory work. So I would say the accessory work happens rarely, just because life. Got to get back in, get to working, take care of one of the 3 kids or something like that. So my primary focus is my day's a success. If I get in, if I do the full warm-up, that's awesome. Every now and then, if the warm-up's 3 rounds, I might only be able to do 2. If it's 4 rounds, maybe I do 3, something like that. There might be an abbreviated warm-up. Give my full attention to the workout, and I have to cool down and stretch. I have to. If I don't, I will pay for it. So those things always happen. It's the accessory work that's it truly is optional. And I don't just say that to everybody and then secretly do it to try to become a beast and get ahead of everybody. It really is optional. And so I could care less if I do it or don't do it. And every now and then, if it's something that I'm interested in and it looks like fun and I get the time, cool. But if not, I walk right out of the garage and don't worry two seconds about it. Eric C.M. How do I know what my body or my muscles' genetic potential is? I feel like no matter what I do, diet, intensity, etc., I cannot become quote-unquote big in terms of muscle. Is there any true limit because of my gender, race, age, I'm 38, etc., or do I just need to try harder? And Paul S. put some great resources that he found about the different body types and whatnot. So if you haven't, Eric, go and check out on the Facebook group Paul's comments there, because they're fantastic. It's not just a try harder thing. It's really not. Most people, I don't want to say everybody, and I can't speak for you specifically, most people do have some ability to put on a little size or put on whatever, but when I say a little size, it really is that. If some people just aren't going to pack muscle on and put 20 pounds of muscle on, it's just not in the cards. I know many people personally that were on the smaller side, had that build, had that metabolism, had that genetics, had that body type, whatever you want to call it, and just they were doing the right sort of movements, the right rep ranges, more bodybuilding style, hypertrophy style training that ideally would pack on some size to their body. They were shoving calories down their throat. They reduced their amount of cardiovascular output, and they might have put on a little bit of size, but none of them I saw a year later was like, dude, you're huge. It just doesn't occur, I think, for most people naturally. Let's go ahead and say that without some sort of chemical intervention or whatnot. Most people just aren't going to have that happen. And I actually think that I'm one of them as well. I'm about 180 pounds, 5'8", not the world's tallest guy. And when I started CrossFit, after years of my quote-unquote bodybuilding, which I mentioned years ago, I was still 180. I was just around 180, taking the cool protein shakes, doing the whatever. I might vary 5 pounds, but I was just there. And same with all my friends. Nobody just blew up and got huge. Started CrossFit at 180 pounds. And today, however many years later it is, 17, 18 years later, I'm 180 pounds. Now, my physical capability has changed dramatically. My strength levels have changed dramatically. But the funny thing is, like, the size of my body really hasn't that much. I know that's an N of 1, but in all the people that I've been working out with for decades, they're generally having the same experience, when I started CrossFit, I could not deadlift 300 pounds. A 275-pound deadlift was nailed to the floor. I weighed 180 pounds. Now, years later, my one rep's probably around 450, and my body weight is exactly the same at 180 pounds. So I had like that strength increase without the body mass increase, So I think a lot of people fall into that category, and you might be one of those people that it's not that you need to try harder. And the people I knew that did actually put on a fair amount of weight and had the ability to quote unquote get big, the amount of calories that they consumed each day when they told me the stories was like nauseating. And they would say themselves that it was nauseating. They just were constantly in a state of eating and shoveling down food to the fact that it wasn't even fun anymore. And they had to do that. So to me, it's not, I don't know if that trade-off is what you want. I would say make good decisions, eat clean. You need to bump up your caloric intake a little bit. Go ahead, bump it up. You want to decrease your cardiovascular output a little bit, cool, and see where that takes you. But if you're actually interested in long-term health and fitness, I don't think you should try to do anything too wacky to your body. It's just my 2 cents on that. But you don't need to try harder. Okay, we've got 2 questions that are very similar, and this one is from Mark S. It says, on the weekly modulating intensity videos, when you say that you bring the heat 2 out of 5 days, do you ever count a classic heavy day as one of those 2, or are you primarily concerned with the high heart rate days in the given week? Typically on the heavy days, you say something like, I'll choose a weight that feels appropriately heavy for that day, which makes me think these days are not meant to be counted as high intensity. That might just be semantics, but the insight would be appreciated. And that's a very similar question to Josh B. in the Linchpin squad, asked about the intensity videos and heart rate and lifting and whatnot. So my short answer on that is, truly giving a heavy day the respect that it deserves. Let's say it's a 5x5 back squat. That's a high intensity day. It may not be a high breather or a high heart rate sort of a day, but that's a high intensity day. So when I say I'm going to lift whatever feels appropriately heavy on that day, that means I am giving my best effort on that day. That just means I finally have that wording just means that I've finally come to the point in my fitness journey where I don't try to do knucklehead things for the sake of being a leaderboard hero. So if I deadlifted or back squatted a certain, the last time I did a 5x5, maybe it was however long ago it was, I see what those numbers are. That's cool. And it's nice to know those numbers. And if I hit them today on the 5x5, cool. I don't feel any pressure to go beyond them. I don't feel any pressure to match them. And if I'm a little bit below it, I don't care. And that doesn't mean I don't care about my fitness, and I don't care about my effort level, and I don't care about my strength and conditioning. What that means is I've finally come to the point where I'm going to be smart and listen to my body, because even though the workout is the same, 5x5, the workouts the 2 or 3 days leading up to it could have been wildly different. There might have been a lot of interference this time. There wasn't a lot of interference last time. The 5x5 back squat, last time it came up, might have been the day after a rest day. Felt like $1 million. The 5x5 this day might be at the end of the week. Same workout, but very different. Last time when it came up, I might have been sleeping great the whole week. This time when it came up, maybe sleep's been in the toilet. Maybe one of my kids is sick. So I'm finally at the point with my strength and conditioning IQ and my dumb ego to get that out of the way. And so when I say on the heavy day, I will lift whatever feels appropriately heavy and challenging for that day, that's what that means. But I will be putting forth my best effort. And so that's why I also say in those modulating intensity videos that I reserve the right to change the plan, and no plan survives contact with the enemy. And that's why I say I usually burn it down on 1 to 2 of the other non-heavy day workouts of the week, because I know the heavy day is going to be taxing. Is it taxing in a way that now it only makes sense for me to burn it down one other time that week? Cool. Then it'll probably be one of the 2 times that I identified. If the heavy day didn't quite knock the stuffing out of me that much, then I'll probably bring the heat on 2 other days that week. But that's where that it's loose and not rigid kind of comes into play. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Dawn, using Wednesday's workout this week, that was the 7-rounder. As an example, would you recommend prescribed if you have the capacity to do so? It's a moderately light load, but your time might be a little slower than the more likely time. If you are an athlete who maybe needs to build muscle, or maybe you're a hard gainer, or you're in the case of a more mature woman and you're losing muscle mass at a faster rate than the less mature athletes. Hormones are fun, is what she said. Thanks, coach. My short answer for you, Dawn, is if you had the capacity, technique, the whole 9 yards to move the prescribed loading, for example, on Wednesday's workout, but like you're saying, you would just fall a little bit outside the window of the more likely time, you're totally good to go. In the case that you said right there, I would have no drama with you doing it at the prescribed loading like that. That's a great decision. Your thought process is great, spot on. The Linchpin community continues to impress me with their strength and conditioning IQ. That's great. And that's also why we say that the goal times, they're not rigid. There's a little bit of flex and a little bit of room there. You drift a little bit over, that's cool. But if the super fitness robot time is 5 minutes, the more likely time is 10 minutes, and it took you 20 minutes, oh, okay, then we're probably, we missed it there. But if, you're just like, I think I can do this, it might take me a little bit longer, I'm going to stick with the prescribed loading, the goal time was 10, it took me 12, you're cool, you're good to go, and I know that those weren't the goal times for Wednesday's workout. Wednesday's workout was a fun trap, let's put it that way. Okay, let's see. Matthew S. 40 minutes to train. That's what you got. 40 minutes to train. Should you shorten the warm-up or shorten the workout? I usually need a good full warm-up to feel ready to attack it. 20 minutes is needed most of the time. Say the most likely time is above 20 minutes. Maybe it's 25 minutes. Should I complete my warm-up and reduce the volume of work, number of rounds, total reps, etc., or should I shorten the workout, start the workout with a lower intensity, and gradually increase in order to keep the intended stimulus? A future dad in need of advice. I feel you, brother. Future dad in need of advice. So there's a couple things you can do. Well, I would say most of the time, now heavy days take time. There's no way around that. But for most non-heavy days, the good news is that there's going to be a fair number of workouts that are less than 20 minutes. Okay? We certainly are not afraid to go above 20 minutes, but just as frequently, we're going below 20 minutes. And so if you've got 40 minutes and you need a good 20 minutes to work out, then for a whole heck of a lot of workouts, you're going to be good to go, because you're going to be able to do the workout in the 20 minutes remaining out of your 40-minute allotted window. But let's say like in the case that you said, it's a longer workout. It's a 30-minute workout, and you've only got 40 minutes to train, and you need the 20 to warm up, like you said. If what you're saying is true, you said in your first sentence here, I usually need a good full warm-up to feel ready to attack it. You're giving me a lot of information there that you're the sort of athlete that you need that warm-up. So that tells me, as frequently as you can, you should allow yourself that warm-up. And then if you've still got 20 minutes left in your window, okay, even if it was supposed to be a 30-minute window, like you're saying, if you just go as hard as you can for 20 minutes, maybe you knock a round off or whatnot, you try to do some mental math to get it to fit in that 20-minute window, 20 minutes of hard work is a lot of hard work. So you'll be good to go utilizing that 40-minute window like that, even if you allow yourself the full warm-up time and you had to modify the workout a bit. The other things that I would say as a future dad is every now and then, you certainly can, if the movements lend themselves well for you and the loadings lend themselves well for you, and it's a bit of a longer workout, you can ease your way in, right? Where, let's say it's a 5-round workout and you're going to do the first round very casually, and then the second round a bit quicker, and then the third round you're feeling pretty good, and the fourth round you're stomping. Like, you could do that kind of slow build as well. There's nothing wrong with that. And the other piece that I would say is for the future dad advice sort of thing. And actually a couple days ago on Tuesday, Emily and I made a video specifically with tips and tricks for parents who are limited on time to get in their fitness. So watch that video. It posted like 2 days ago. I think I forgot to post that on Instagram. On YouTube, I should do that. Dumbbells are your friend. So the dumbbell option, the limited equipment option, just because generally speaking, you know, it takes less time to warm up to a pair of 50-pound dumbbells than a 225-pound barbell, because you're warming up to a lighter load in general. So the dumbbell option might be easier for you most of the time or fit your life better, and that could be a great option also on heavy days. If you're short on time, you've only got 40 minutes, can't warm up for a full barbell session, choose the limited equipment option on those heavy days and you won't be shortchanged. Okay, arena. This Saturday we have 7 sets of 1 overhead squats. Spoiler alert! So, I have a question about that movement. My overhead squats suck. I only have a 35-pound barbell and I can only do 1 overhead squat at a time with that barbell slowly. I can do several squats with a PVC pipe and I don't have any lighter barbells. I also tried doing it with a dumbbell and I can't, it's just too difficult for me. What do I do to get stronger / better at overhead squats? Front squats are fine. Push press, split jerks are fine. Is there a way to work up to it? Heard about filling PVC pipes with sand. Maybe that can be a good middle ground. So yes, if you can do some sort of an option to get yourself a bit of a lighter object to hold overhead, that's great. However, you said that you can do 1 rep with that 35-pound barbell slowly, but it's tough. So you're good on Saturday because it's 7 sets of 1. You only need to do 1. So for where you are with your fitness journey, sounds like you have the loading which will work for you. But that being said, if you said, front squats are good for you, some overhead stuff like, jerks and stuff are good for you, then the overhead squat is difficult for you, then my question is, we'd have to figure out why is that. Is it a strength issue? It sounds like you can hold some load overhead, so probably not. Is it a midline issue? Not sure. Is it a technique issue? Is it a mobility, flexibility sort of a thing? That could be it, especially since you also said like the dumbbell overhead is really difficult. And that's a movement which if you don't have really good flexibility or mobility, you're going to struggle with it. And I'm speaking from experience there. So it might be that your path to an improved overhead squat is figuring out what's tight on you, what are the point of restrictions, whatever terminology you want to use, and finding some mobility protocols to help that. It could be your actual shoulders, it could be your thoracic spine, it could be your hips, it could be your ability to get flexion at your ankles, it could be a whole bunch of things. So we have to figure out what is it that is the limiting factor for you in that movement, target what that is, and then, start to improve that. But what you could do, let's say on an overhead squat day, like Saturdays, if maybe the position is so difficult for you and that's what's making the 35-pound bar challenging, and so yes, you do these 7 sets of 1 overhead squat with the 35-pound bar, assuming that you're safe, and then, 007 Jarmo, January marked 7 years with Linchpin. Haven't regretted a day. 7 years. That's cool. Very, very cool. You could do that for practice, right? Practice with the PVC pipe. If you can move that barbell safely for 7 sets of 1, do it for 7 sets of 1. But then since it sounds like you're plenty strong to squat more loading, you're not going to really get a significant loading on that day to give yourself a lower body strength and conditioning day as well, that you might do a little extra that day. Maybe load up the barbell, do some front squats, some heavy singles or something like that, so that you do still get that lower body strength and conditioning and midline session in there, because it sounds like you won't get it in based upon the loading that you're comfortable to do with the overhead squat. And then you could also do some overhead work, shoulder press, Turkish get-ups, things like that, to help develop that overhead strength and stability as well. So that might be maybe what an overhead squat session looks like for you on this Saturday. Okay, Dave D. How did your partnership with btwb start, and how and why did you and Boz get involved with the Very Not Random shows? What are the plans for the Very Not Random podcast for 2024? The partnership with btwb, or whatever the appropriate wording is, I just was lucky enough to cross paths with the owners a long time ago, well over a decade ago. Mo and John, really good people. The guys that started the company, they still own it to this day. They love CrossFit, they love fitness, they love strength and conditioning, and they love tech, and they love joining those two together. And as much as I wake up in the morning and I just think about programming, workouts, they wake up in the morning thinking about, well, how can we make this amazing app even better? So they're great at what they do. And so our friendship started then. We just connected over the years, and it was actually Mo's idea to start the Linchpin private track when people started really enjoying Linchpin and wanting more information and kind of wanted warm-ups and different options and goal times and videos, and like a community started to form. So he was kind of instrumental in starting that, which is crazy. And the genesis of the Very Not Random podcast, I can't exactly remember how that happened. I think that they wanted to have a podcast hosted on btwb that was just cut out all the nonsense. Really, there's so much nonsense out there where you could just go and get some people just shooting you straight. That was it, shooting you straight, no fluff, no smoke and mirrors, no nothing. And so we just started to see if it would take off, and it's been received very well, which is cool. Plans for 2024 for the Very Not Random podcast? Don't mess it up. That's my big plan. I don't know. We don't have any fancy plans. We just try to find an interesting topic or guest each week and then share that with the community. That's literally as simple as the plan is. So if you've got good ideas, let me know. Okay, on to the btwb squad. Carl L. btwb will track benchmarks, which is awesome, and I use these metrics all the time. In a previous 2023 workout, I had the opportunity to back squat heavy for 10 reps at 205. This was just a mark in time and a single round effort. Okay, so 1 set of 10. For the workout on January 19th, the back squat movement was 10 reps at 65% of 1 rep max. But that was with 3 rounds, which meant I'm doing 30 reps in under 20 minutes, with cardio, under fatigue, core work in the mix. Do you have any advice on how to play with the btwb benchmark and get something close to where we should be with loading and intensity for a workout like this? P.S. Great workout. I'm 2 months into Linchpin and loving it, hitting it 5 times a week, so thank you. Very cool. Carl, I'm not sure if I fully understand your question, because with regards to selecting the loading, since it was percentage based, you would just go on whatever your 1 rep max is and select 65% of your 1 rep max for the loading for that. And then if you watch the video attached to that day, it would give you some more insight and guidance to make sure that that was appropriate for you. And if it wasn't appropriate, some ways to, help make a decision which was appropriate for you. And so maybe what you're saying is that you have your 10 rep bench press, 10 rep back squat, but you don't have your 1 rep back squat. And so if that was the case, if I'm reading that appropriately, which is why you couldn't figure out what your 65% was, there are, if you go into like btwb might do it as well. As a matter of fact, I'm almost positive that they do. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but you can go into find it on Google, and basically people have made these things where you can reverse engineer, like, hey, this is what I can back squat for 10 reps. What should my 1 rep max be? And it's probably not perfect, but it'll get you ballpark. And then you could take 65% of that, and that would be what you could use for the loading right there. You would also have the opportunity, if you so desired, on a day like that, let's say that you're new, you haven't established a 1 rep yet, that warm up, establish a 1 rep for the day. Doesn't have to be an eyeball popping lifetime PR, but make sure it's appropriately challenging. Establish a heavy single, and then there's your heavy single. You take 65% of that, if you feel ready for it, and you could do the workout. Let's see. Okay, I read that one from Josh. All right, this one's from Michael. On the heavy day or moderate heavy workouts where the rep scheme is 1-1-1 or 2-2-2, for example, should that be read as sets across, or are you to adjust the weights between sets? So on something which is, I would guess you're asking for heavy singles or doubles, do you have to keep the same loading across all sets, or can you go up or down? Both are appropriate. You are shooter's choice. You can work up to something that's heavy and will be an appropriately challenging struggle for you to maintain for every single one of those sets with appropriate rest. It's a great way to do it. And that's actually the more challenging way. And the other way that you could do it is you could most certainly go up and down. You could vary each set. And all I would say is if you are varying the weights each set, you don't want to vary it too much. And all I mean by that is, let's say it's a 5x5 back squat, or 1s or 2s, whatever it happens to be. And you're going to not hold the same weight across all the sets. You're going to go up, you're going to go down. Well, that 5x5 or the 7 sets of 1, whatever it is, those are your working sets, is the terminology that we would use for that. You do your general warm-up, you start to build up the weight in the bar, you're doing warm-up sets, and you're doing the warm-up sets to get ready for your working sets. And the working sets don't need to be like, lifetime PR material, but they should be challenging for you. And if they're not challenging, and challenging, there's a range in what challenging is, right? You can go up, you can go down, and it's still challenging. But if it's not challenging because you drop the weight that much that it's no longer challenging, then I would say, generally speaking, I wouldn't consider that a working set. If it's just not challenging when you slide on the barbell, it's a warm-up. And so yes, you do have the freedom to go up or down as you feel necessary on that bar. But I would just make sure that all those sets are appropriately challenging, and that would mean that they're working sets and not something that you should have done during your warm-up sets. Mike M, if you were to design an open workout, what would the workout be? Knowing the goal of the open being what it is, to have everyone participate, but also weed out the elites until there's the last one standing. First of all, the short answer is I don't know. I'd have to put some good time, thought, and effort into that. But the truth is, it's almost limitless. I mean, that's really it. Shy of a workout where the time frame is so small that you would have too many people stack up, that's what you would want to avoid. Like, as hard as Fran is, there's just so many people these days that have a sub 3 Fran. And there's a lot of people that have like a 230 Fran. What I'm trying to say is there's a lot of people that can do Fran really fast and completely unbroken. And so if you have thousands and thousands of people who can do that, you're going to have this bottleneck of times that are too close to call, and that's not going to give you the separation that you need, even though Fran's a tremendous workout. So you're going to want to make sure that you have your loadings, your time domains, your rep schemes, and things like that, just with enough buffer that there's going to be a little bit of a fall off, and so you don't have those huge just, pile-ups of times at certain deals. And you can obviously do that with skills as well, a particular loading, a particular skill set, causing interference from one movement to another. That's going to cause most people who are not, full-time competitive athletes and their life revolves around this stuff to have to take a breather. And then everybody else that is training ferociously to be a competitor, they won't have to take a breather and they'll pull ahead. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that can be accomplished. And the great way when it's done well is it's accomplished in a way that everybody else who's not a crazy athlete, that is a regular person competing in the open, feels like they're, having a good time as well, and not just doing something that's unnecessarily hard or the skill level's too high and it's like, well, why am I doing this anyway? You just programmed it for somebody who's an elite, because that's not fun either. Okay, 2 more questions left. One of them I'm not prepared to answer, so I'll give you the one that I'm prepared for. From Philip. Hi Pat, what are your thoughts/advice on things like lifting belts, knee sleeves, and wrist wraps? Do they add a good level of support to joints and musculature, or is it better to lift within one's limits without wearing these supports? For workouts like this Saturday's, 7 sets of 1 at a heavy weight, would you wear knee sleeves, a belt, or wrist wraps? So, there's an entire Very Not Random episode on this topic, so I think, Philip, you'd really like it. You can search for it either as a podcast or as a video on YouTube, but it's Very Not Random, episode 38, and it's entitled Lifting Shoes, Belts, and Knee Sleeves, Necessary or Not. So I think that will treat you well. The short answer is there's absolutely nothing wrong with that gear, and it serves a purpose. And I don't have any drama or issue with anybody wearing it. As you probably know, I'm a fan of freedom. Do what you want to do. I think the only thing that anybody should be conscious and aware of is some people start to lean on it as an unnecessary crutch, even if they don't need it. And then they can't lift without their fill in the blank, whatever it happens to be. Now, hopefully, there's enough common sense out there to realize that if you have something going on and you legitimately need that gear, that's different. I remember I strained my wrist a couple years ago and it just took forever. Like, wrists take forever to heal. And I wore a wrist wrap for months when I worked out, and it was the game changer between me being able to work out or not being able to work out. And so that wasn't just some unnecessary crutch or cool piece of gear that I liked. Like, I needed it. And then when I didn't need it anymore, I stopped using it, and I haven't used it in years. And so I would just say be self-aware to which camp are you falling in. The gear is great, serves a purpose, but it should, it should serve its purpose and not be an unnecessary thing that you don't quite need. But I got no drama. If somebody likes wrist wraps, knee sleeves, and weight belts, and that's what sets them up for success in a day like this, great. I would also say, not advice, but just people. I don't use a weight belt. I know I'm an oddball like that, and I just don't because I didn't when I first started, and I get used to doing it without the weight belt. And now when I do put one on, it feels so odd, so uncomfortable. It's distracting, and being distracted under heavy load is not a good thing. And so that has forced me to become very good at just bracing my midline because I'm not, without a belt. But I don't think that that's the norm. Belts are great, they work well, and people love them. And I would also say, as a general rule, again, not advice, but it's relatively common too for a lot of people to not put the weight belt on until it becomes necessary or the loading is somewhere around maybe like 80% or whatnot. Then are going to strap on for the belt. And I remember it was hilarious when I was at the Rogue Invitational doing the show, and we had Brian Shaw on the show, who's been the world's strongest man. I don't even know how many times. Monstrous man, 20 feet tall, 8,000 pounds, just a huge human being. And we were talking deadlifts, and he kind of said that same thing, but it was just funny because of his weights. He's like, oh yeah, and when the deadlift's light, I won't belt up, but then when it starts to get, like it's getting your attention, then yeah, I'll throw the belt on then. And we were like, oh, so like around what weight starts to get your attention? He's like, like 800 pounds, that's probably when I'd throw a belt on. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. I'd throw a belt on for 800 pounds too. So the final question from Justin D. Not sure if this has ever been asked, but if you could pick one of your Linchpin tests to be an event of the games, which one would it be? It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, there's Linchpin test 13, which was, running in burpees in a weight vest, which would be great to see everyone just suffer for that long, because it really would come down to just such a grinded out suffer fest that would be entertaining. But I also think that, and again, I think Linchpin test 14 would be an awesome burner to watch everybody do. 15 clean and jerks at the Grace weight, 30 cals on the bike, 15 clean and jerks. That's one where at that level, nobody could take their hands off the barbell. They knew if they want to win or want to be in the top 3, it has to be unbroken. Every one of those people is going to do the barbell work unbroken. So that means they would have to hop on that echo bike between those 2 sets of barbells and sell their soul to the devil and then get off for the final set of clean and jerks. That would be very entertaining. I'd like to see that. And the other one, and I can't remember the number of it now, I guess, test 5 would be fun. The heavy clean, the back squats, the 2-mile run. But also the number eludes me right now. But it's squat cleans at 2 1/4 and handstand walks, 5 rounds of that. I mean, there's a few that would be pretty darn cool to see. So, okay. That's it, my friends. It's Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. It's a rest day. I'll be taking it. I might, if I can actually find some time, go for like a nice walk, listen to a podcast. That'll be my big thing for the day. Say Melanie says that she would test 13 as well. And so that's it. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for being awesome, and we'll talk later.